Guys, we are live. Welcome back to another episode of the Conquerors Crew. I have such an awesome guest today. It's a very unique guest. We don't normally have guests like this, but when we get into the show, you'll see how it all connects together. So, I always open up and kind of share the three pillars that we have that are the Conquerors Crew for the people that haven't ever seen the show, that's the first time, and then those that kind of need a reminder, okay? Just a little reminder. So, quick and easy. It kind of sets the stage for what the Conquerors Crew is. And the first pillar is hope. And for us, hope stands for helping other people excel. And so that's kind of our little acrostic thing that we like to use for that. And, we like hope because sometimes you show up to the show and, man, you're having a rough week and you need a little. And so it could give you a little. Or maybe you're feeling good and maybe you can share something that helps somebody else to give them a little hope. So that's kind of our deal with hope. And then the next one is grit. Okay. And for us, grit stands for grace. And in our opinion, kind of grace is a lot easier to share to give someone else grace, but it's a reminder to give yourself some grace, right? Don't be so hard on yourself. Resiliency is the R. And, well, that kind of speaks for itself. And you're not necessarily born with it. I think you're born with some characteristics, but it's something you can learn, just like anything else. And you're not going to start out with an Iron Man, right? You're going to start out by, little by little, and you'll work up to it. So you can't expect to have this ultimate resilience if you haven't practiced the little steps beforehand. And then the I is for integrity. And integrity is a little bit like grace in the respect of it's a lot easier to say, hey, you aren't following the rules to somebody else. But at 3:00 in the morning when you're up and looking at yourself because you're worried about something, are you being honest with yourself? That's the integrity I'm talking about, right? Being honest with yourself. And then the T is teachable. And I don't think we ever stop learning. And when we kind of get a bit high on our high horse, it's usually about the time we get knocked off, isn't it? So remain humble, remain teachable. And then the last one is, well, no quit. So hope, grit, and no quit. And that's us. So, hey, thanks for letting me do that little intro and giving us your time today. Laurie-Ann Murabito is a professional speaker, and she teaches people and companies and things how to professionally speak in groups. And the thing that's so interesting to me about Laurie-Ann is she was super shy. And to my understanding, like so shy that she couldn't even look people in the face. And so we're going to explore that a little bit, right? Because that's kind of the conquering part that we want to get into and understand. And we also want to learn about, hey, how to professionally speak a little better in front of a group. That's communication is the number one skill, right? That's my understanding. So welcome to the show. How are you doing? How's your day? Tell us about it.
Trent, I was just taking notes as you were talking about the pillars. Those are great. Hope, grit, and no quit. I love that. So thank you for sharing. I'm having a great day because I am ending it with you.
Oh, wow. Oh, my. How gracious. How gracious. That's awesome. Hey, I'll take it. Anything.
Absolutely.
Sure. How's so tell us, what part of the country do you live in? A little bit of kind of get to know you, if you don't mind. Yeah.
Get to know me. Okay. I love peanut butter and chocolate. If you like, the only thing that would be better tonight is if you handed me a Reese's peanut butter cup. You would find me in southern New Hampshire. And sometimes when the snow is falling, you'll find me down in West Palm Beach because I have a self-diagnosed snow allergy, by the way.
Oh, okay. Self-diagnosed. I got you. I caught that.
I am the oldest of 3 other sisters.
Okay, cool.
And mom and dad. And my dad was an engineer. My mother was the homemaker. And here's a fun fact about me. When I was 13 years old, we're all sitting at the dinner table. Dad sits down. Dad, remember, the engineer looks around at all his girls and says, so how do you guys feel about moving to Japan? And we all went, yes. I mean, like I was the oldest. I was 13 years old. My youngest sister was like 5. And we had no idea really what that meant. And 6 months later, like our house was being packed up and we moved to Japan for 2 years for an assignment that my father had for work. He was not a military guy. He just government contracting.
Okay.
And I'm 5'10".
Oh yeah, you're tall. You're tall in Japan.
Yeah. I could see from one end of the train to the other side of the train during rush hour.
Oh my heavens. Is that good? Is that a good thing? And a lot of little kind of black dark heads, right? Just a lot of little...
That's right. They would always be like, "You're 13?" Like I was literally a giant in Japan.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now I'm curious, did you integrate with the culture? Did you learn the language, or did you have enough time? Like, wow. I mean, I've lived. Go ahead. What was that?
Hajijimashite dozo yoroshiku means nice to meet you.
Oh my gosh. I tried Spanish and I never really got a hold of that. And I was like, there's no way I could learn Mandarin or Cantonese or any, because the symbols and then the sounds and then the words, that's too much for a man and a man's mind.
Well, I'm gonna cut you some slack there.
Appreciate it.
Did study French in high school.
Okay.
And I still to this day, after just spending 2 years in Japan, I know more Japanese than I do French. And the reason is, and this is why I'm saying like you should give yourself a break, because you need to be immersed in a culture. I mean, if you had no choice but to communicate in Mandarin, you will find a way. Which brings me to something really important. When my father went over to Japan beforehand to find a home for us, and most Americans are going to live around the American base because there would be other Americans. And my father chose, if we're going to move to another country, we're going to live in a neighborhood. And we lived in a very Japanese neighborhood.
Wow.
The house was built by a woman who she is Japanese, but she grew up in Texas. She built the house with some inheritance money that she had. So the house had a very large kitchen, a very large bathroom. Like there were some very Americanized rooms, which was great for us.
Yeah.
Family of 6.
Yeah. And did you guys did you sit on the floor kind of, don't they kind of eat lower down? Like it's kind of, like the seats are kind of, you step down and the table's kind of.
You have what? So we did live in I'll say like a rather well-to-do neighborhood. Okay. So they had what you're describing is a tatami room. So that's the room that you would that would have like a place where you would comfortably sit, because it was like you were sitting on a chair, but you're sitting on the floor. Yeah. We did have one of those rooms, but we didn't eat dinner that way. We did eat dinner at a dinner table. However, my neighbor next door, their children would eat. And when Dad came home, because he was the vice president of a contact lens company, he ate dinner in the tatami room.
Okay.
Each night. So
cool. You big fan of Japanese food? Do you sushi? Seafood? Really? Yes. Good for you.
I only started eating it like 6 months before we were to leave.
Wow.
I was like, if I knew it was this good, I would have started eating this raw tuna a long time ago. So that's a little bit about me. I love the outdoors. Cool. Yeah. I love nature, and I have a fascination with large animals.
Really, like safari kind of
like animals? Elephants and big like hawks and ospreys, and I live up on a hill, so I get to see a lot of
nice
hawks, and I just find them just so fascinating.
Cool. a fun, yeah, kind of a weird fact I saw last night. I have a little Aussie Doodle that's about 20 pounds. She's my best buddy, my best friend, and in the evenings if I'm working, Animal Planet's on for her. She comes sits in the chair and she watches Animal Planet. So we watch a lot of safari stuff. And do you know that eagles, their talons have 600 pounds of pressure? When
Wow.
they grab onto something, it's like it's like being in handcuffs. That
Yeah,
it's I couldn't believe, and they have these extra tendons and things in their hands, and it's like I guess that's why they can pick up a small child and just fly away with them.
that's
You know,
right.
so
That's right.
crazy,
Oh
man.
yeah,
Yeah, crazy.
are
Random fact.
eagles are
So,
they're so gorgeous.
yeah,
Gorgeous animals.
yeah. When you lived in Japan, I'm just curious because I lived in New Zealand for almost 20 years. And so I've been all over Asia and Australia and New Zealand and that whole part of the country, or part of the world. But never Japan on the list, but didn't get it. Um, was it still, when you lived there, was it as tidy and clean and organized and people were as mannerly as they seem to be that it appears today back then? Yeah.
I don't know what it's like today,
Yeah.
but back then, yes, it was very clean. People were very polite. I mean, like it's like if you do not dishonor your family.
Wow.
Like
Okay.
crime is very minimal. And like I said, I don't know what it's like today. I was a young woman when I
Yeah.
lived there, and I don't have the desire to go back.
Yeah.
And if I did go back, I wouldn't want to go back to the place like I wouldn't want to go back to Tokyo or Yokohama where my family was,
Mhm.
because I really do want to remember it the way that I remembered it
Okay.
as a 13-year-old.
Cool. Cool. Nice. Nice. Awesome. Just curious, like, do you travel like out of the country a lot? Is that kind of one of your things? Since
I
you,
have,
yep,
yes, not so much this past year, but yeah, I have been to Australia also. I
cool.
have been to Peru. I got to go spend some time at Machu Picchu. I've
Neat.
walked part of the Camino, been to Paris a couple of times, London. I don't think Canada counts because they're like our friendly neighbors.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's a stamp on the passport, so
Yeah. Yeah. And when I lived in Japan, our family did have to leave every 6 months to renew our visas. So I've
okay.
been to Singapore, Hong Kong, and Thailand.
Wow. Okay. That's awesome. I mean, I learned a lot better. I just learned a lot better, like being in it, the food, talk to the people, try the culture, do the thing. And so that's kind of been my thing. I lived overseas for about 20 years and I had to come back for my health stuff a few years ago, which is solid now. But hey,
What
man.
compelled you, Trent, to live overseas?
Well, I wanted to travel when I graduated my MBA and business degree and IT degree, and so I started out as a consultant, and we went into big companies and did software installs and everything. So after about 4 or 5 years, I saw the entire U.S. and then it was like, well, I want to go international, and they just kept kind of saying, well, we'll put you on a project, and it didn't work out. And I just said, okay, well, I'm tired of waiting. And I just kind of resigned and then started looking around. And I spent a year in Spain, actually, in between. And that's when I tried to learn Spanish and saw all of Europe and did all that thing and all that stuff. And tutored, kind of tried to see if I wanted to maybe be a teacher or professor or something. And so there was a couple of goals, that I had built up over the 4 or 5 years after I graduated, and loved it. I mean, I had the bug then.
Yeah.
And so the next stop was somewhere down under. And I went back into IT because I was making like 13 or 14 euros an hour as a teacher. And so you're broke. I mean, it's broke,
Right.
which is fine. That doesn't matter. It doesn't bother to me. But good money in contracting, down under, and New Zealand was the easiest place for me to get into. And after I got my first gig, well, I just kind of just kept getting something. And I'd go to Australia or Indonesia or here or there. And yeah, so then I started a popcorn, kettle corn business with a buddy. They didn't have it in New Zealand. Very, very behind on everything. They're like 20 years behind, no joke, on everything.
Yeah.
Healthcare, food, just they're kind of their mindset, everything, which is cool because I was way ahead when I got down there. So my buddy just kind of realized it, and he used to do kettle corn at markets where he lived in Washington State. And he's like, do you think they'll like it? I'm like, everybody loves salty sweet. It blew their mind. Mm-hmm. So we just went from local markets, like on the weekends, and I was still working IT and did that. And after about 6 months, it was like, this is something. So I resigned and full time, and we, went into like packaging and production and manufacturing and distribution. And we were all over, we're in a lot of parts of Asia, all over New Zealand, all over the islands, and grew to be the number 2 popcorn in the country.
Good for you.
Yeah, that was my gig, man. That was my deal. I was kind of popcorn. I was a popcorn man, as sexy as that is. So yeah.
Love it.
It is what it is.
Hey, we all do what we're good at.
I'm just good at fixing it. I figured out I'm really good at fixing problems. And that's what small business is a lot of just fixing problems every day and doing them quickly. And yeah, so I wouldn't do it again. I would not do it again. I don't want to sound, I don't like staff. I don't like dealing with staff. I don't like dealing with personal problems. I don't like all that crap. And it just, it just ends up coming to work, right? And then, I feel like a counselor half the time, and I don't want to do that. I want to make popcorn and make money. So, but hey, I wouldn't trade it for anything. I loved it. Great experience. I mean, the skills, the stuff that I learned, I had, the guy that I was business partners with, a little older than me, kind of a bit of a mentor. I mean, taught me so much. So, I would have never learned what I learned if I was still in the corporate world. And I got sick of that. Playing that game, not my game. I don't care. I don't want to abide by the rules. I don't want to follow rules to follow rules, And so a lot of times you kind of figure out like I'm way smarter than the boss. And, then you got to kind of like play the game. I don't want to play the game. I want to play my game. So, hey, it worked out great. Worked out awesome. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. So, golly, I feel like it's kind of like, are you the guest or am I the guest?
I'm interviewing you.
Hey, but hey, you know what? It's all good. I mean, a lot of times I don't talk about me, right? Mm-hmm. So, I don't think a lot of people that see the show or have started watching the show in like the last 6 months maybe don't even know that. So,
yeah, and now they do.
Yeah, appreciate that. That's cool. Yeah, thanks. I appreciate that. Do you mind if we kind of move into this thing that you kind of had some social anxiety? I just find this so interesting and really like conquering, if you will, stage fright or your social anxiety or whatever you call it, where now you speak in public and you teach people how to do it. And you were so shy you wouldn't even look at people. Talk to us about that.
Okay, I really was a shy girl who couldn't even make eye contact with people. And, I joke that like I'm 5'10", so I'm hard to miss, not just in Japan, but just like here in the US. So it's not like I was this little petite person who could get away with not looking at people because I could basically be invisible.
Sure.
And so I did work at a grocery store during high school, and there was this guy. His name was Richard Gazzardi, and he was so outgoing, and he would just talk to whomever before our shift started, and he would just engage in conversation. And I remember just so many times just watching him, just thinking, wow, I admire that. And then one day I literally had this download of, Laurie-Ann, this behavior of not looking at people while you're speaking to them, while they're speaking to you, is not going to serve you in the long run. You have to learn to look at people. So I didn't have words for it then, but basically, like when I look back on it, what I was doing was modeling Richard Gazzardi.
Okay.
I looked somebody in the eye and spoke with them, even just for a few seconds,
Mhm.
and then I looked away. And I'm really a big positive reinforcement girl. And I was like, well, the earth did not open up and swallow me whole. The person I was talking to did not laugh at me. So I was like, so I literally was like, oh, I bet I could do it again and a little bit longer.
Nice. I
And
love
that
it.
and
Little
that's
steps.
literally it was yes, it was baby steps.
Yes.
Little steps that I took each time and was just like, hey, look what I did. I bet I can do it again. And eventually, like I just ended up like, being able to be like a normal human being in my words and have conversation and not worry or be scared. Now, let's take that to, we'll fast forward. I used to be in healthcare, and then I was working in a medical device company, and then I left and was starting my own coaching business because if you build it, they will come. At least that's the bill of goods that I was sold.
Right,
So
right, right.
me and a couple of other women were putting together a networking event for women. Women network differently than men.
Yes.
And so that's what we were catering this to. So there's going to be education plus networking. Great. And they all pointed at me and said, you do the speaking. And my head did this. You're
Ah,
laughing at me.
in your heart did.
And in my
Yeah.
heart, I was just like, what are you doing? You don't speak in front of people.
Oh my.
But because I said that I would do it, I showed
You're,
up and I did it.
you're gonna do it. Yeah. You gave your word, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Cool.
that's
Cool.
part of grit is integrity.
Yeah,
I had
that's it.
self-integrity. I showed up and I did it. And I'll also tell you that I'm not the sort of person who can see far down the road. And what I mean by that is it never dawned on me to even think about, well, what if somebody asks me a question that I can't answer? Or what
Mhm.
if I forget what I want to tell them? What if I forget that next line? Like none of that even crossed my mind. I showed up and I served the audience.
Awesome.
I spoke for about 20 minutes
Okay.
on something that I thought was really important for the audience. And it wasn't very good, like knowing what I know now. Like I just started speaking. I became what I call the college professor, and I just got up there and I lectured. And then when I was done speaking, this is literally, if you've ever done any speaking, Trent, you're going to love this.
I've done some, yeah.
This is how I ended my speech. Okay, I'm done now. And if you want to talk to me, I'll be in the back of the room. Like it was like going along and then it just drops like a cliff. But I didn't know what I didn't know. And people
Yeah.
came up to me and said, so do you have a website? Do you work with clients? And I was just like, huh? What?
Wow.
And that's how I started to attract those clients. I
Wow.
was the life coach who I didn't know how I was going to market my business or attract people,
Right.
but that's how it started.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome. Do you mind if I ask you a little bit about the shyness, if you don't mind?
Yeah, go right ahead.
Yeah. Where do you think that shyness came from? Because like, was it a lack of confidence in yourself, or because you were so tall, or what do you think it?
What I
What do you
think it
think?
was,
Yeah. What do you think it
I
was?
was I was modeling my mother.
Oh,
I'm the oldest.
okay.
My mother is really shy.
Okay.
Like to the point where maybe like she's afraid of like having conversations with people. So
Right.
I just like I'm very good at observing. I don't necessarily ask a whole lot of questions, but I watch people's behavior. And
Right.
so I'm the oldest. There's mom. I love mom. She's my idol. I don't know any better. And so I did what mom did. Now I
Okay.
say this because like I learned to be shy. Now, there is every fall, right around my father's birthday, there is this country fair that he just loves to go to. And really, we're going for just to eat at the different vendors that we like. But there's this show that my father loves, the Flying Luendas, like 5 generations of trapeze artists.
Okay.
And what I noticed was a couple of years ago, one of the couples had a baby.
Okay.
And so now they bring the baby out into the arena. And so the baby is surrounded by people. This little baby, like now I've seen the baby starting to grow up and actually went on daddy's shoulders all the way up and was way up high on
Wow.
dad's shoulders.
Okay.
But this little child, he doesn't know any better.
Right.
He doesn't know that most people are afraid of being in front of an audience or public speaking.
Yeah.
This is just normal. His entire family does this. And they started at such a young age, bring the baby out in front of the people.
Yeah.
And they literally would just I knew what they were doing.
Right.
Whereas most of the people in the audience are probably thinking, oh, cute, they're just showing off the baby. No, they're training the baby.
Right.
To be comfortable in front of people.
Yes.
Mhm.
Gotcha. You took it a level deeper.
Yeah,
You
so
took
that's
it a
why I
level deeper,
really
yeah.
think that, whether you're shy, whether you're an outgoing person, this may be something that you picked up. There is in the world of psychology, there is a diagnosis for, people that are afraid of public speaking, that are really shy. I don't even know what the technical term is, but I have to wonder, what is the percentage of people that are actually that shy? And did they learn it from somebody?
Right. I mean, you probably know, I would expect that you know this, and that public speaking is the number one fear of all fears, right?
Yes.
I mean, people are more scared to do that than die.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, I heard once, and I can't remember what it was, but it was basically they did a survey, asking people, could you get up there and go speak? And and most people say no. Well, which actually is the obvious answer, because the question is, well, who's the audience? And what am I going to, you have to think about, what am I going to speak on that this audience is interested in?
Right.
So here's a great example. I got asked to be an MC at an event where Bobby Orr was going to be there.
Okay.
And Mr. Sanders also, who's in that iconic Bruins picture. And the gentleman who hired me said, there's a possibility that he's not going to be able to make it because there's a hockey strike. Okay. So be prepared to speak on leadership, which happened to be my expertise. And I'm thinking, really? You think an audience full of hockey fans is going to want to know anything about leadership?
I would. Yeah. They want to know about the players, and
that's right.
Right, and the history and
Yes, they didn't want me to be talking about leadership. So I say that because, thank goodness, Bobby Orr actually was able to show up and be there, so I didn't have to improvise. But there would have been a lot of unhappy people because they didn't come to see me; they came to see Bobby.
Right.
So a lot of times, the reason why people are afraid of public speaking is because they don't know what they're going to say. And I met this gentleman, and he was in a band. He was a singer. Okay. And then he finds out what I do, and he's like, oh my God, I so admire that. I wish I could do that, but I could never do what you do. So I ask him,
wow,
so do you ever ask the audience questions in between songs? Do you have some sort of a routine, a gig in between sets?
Yeah.
And he goes, oh yeah. I go, do you have it written out? He goes, no. He goes, I know what I'm going to say. And I said, you're doing exactly the same thing. you know what you're going to say. That's half the confidence.
Right.
I
Right.
could never get up there and go sing and talk to an audience in between. Like if all I had to do was talk to the audience in between the songs, I'd be okay. I think I
Right.
could manage.
Yeah.
But we all do what we're good at.
Right. Yeah. 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 Um, just going back to the shyness, if you don't
Mhm.
mind, I'm happy to jump all over, so it's no big deal.
You go right ahead. I'm an open book when it comes to
Yeah,
this stuff.
sweet, sweet, awesome. Because I always want to give the listeners something to take away, and I'm thinking we've got people there like they're so shy, and you've given some great advice already. When you were so shy as a kid, and this question kind of just clarify this for me.
Mhm.
So from 13 to 15, you were in Japan, but you moved back to the States, and that's when you worked in the grocery store after 15, 16.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Right. Right. Okay. And that's when you met the gentleman that was outgoing that you mentioned. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Roger that. Okay, cool. I just wanted to connect that,
Mhm.
for me and if anybody else was wondering. Um, so, you know, you kind of mimic this guy's, attitude and things. But did you ever go to a counselor to talk to him? Did your family know that you were shy? Did your friends know it, or was it all kind of something that was inside you that you just kept and never really, you know what I'm saying?
I do know what you're saying, but no, there was no counseling because, I mean, this was what my mother was.
Right.
So this was learned behavior. So, like, why would my mother point out, like, hey, you seem to be awfully shy? I think, in a sense, all of my sisters were,
Okay.
since it was the household that we grew up in. So, there was no counseling about it. And I really think, like, back then, could you imagine going to a counselor? Why are you here? Because I'm afraid of speaking. They'd probably been like, okay.
Like now it's kind of an okay thing, but back then it would be like you're a wimp. You're too soft.
Yeah,
What's wrong with
exactly.
you? Yeah. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
with you. I'm with you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, what
So
about your dad? What do I can
my
you,
well, my dad's an engineer. So
yeah, so I mean, is he
everything's
kind of
black
like,
and
yeah, the nerdy, is
everything's
he kind
black
of
and
nerdy?
white.
Sorry.
Yes, he's very nerdy, very to himself. He's very intelligent.
Right. Right.
So I would imagine, he's retired. He's been retired for a long time now. But back then, when he was, like a younger, like working in corporate defense, I'm sure that he had a hard time working with people who weren't at the education level that he was, the intelligence level. So dad didn't really talk very much.
Okay.
My dad was definitely a man of few words.
Okay. So how was it like at the dinner table as a kid? Was everybody good at that, with the family? Were people comfortable with the family? But it
Oh
was
yeah,
outside. It was
yeah,
outside with strangers. It was
yeah,
more uncomfortable.
yeah.
Okay,
Like I had
gotcha.
some friends and I could talk with them, but oh my God, like to give a book report, you
Yeah.
know, to talk. Like I working in the grocery store, it was easy to say, "Hi, how are you?" But it was also required of me to say, "Hi, how are you?"
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that will be $50.62. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Did you maybe put yourself in a situation like that to push yourself that you had to kind of overcome this fear that you had?
I don't know if I could say that I put myself
Right.
in that sort of a situation. I mean, where I lived, I mean, my parents were just like, if you're going to get a job, like you have to be able to walk there. So from my house, I mean, like my options were very limited. The
Sure.
grocery store was definitely the better place. My first job was actually Burger King. So it wasn't fun to come
Right.
home smelling like French fries.
Yeah, kettle
Yeah.
corn is sticky and oily. I know.
Yes.
Yeah, you just have a
Yes.
film on you. Yeah.
Yes. So I chose the grocery store. And
Well, no matter what.
I've also got a lot of energy, so I was always like actually one of the fastest cashiers. I was
Cool.
probably, like I'm just like trying to get people out of the store.
Yeah, yeah. But like if you're gonna have a job, Kind of like young people, most of it's pretty much customer service. You're not in the back of a warehouse packing boxes by yourself, right? So
No.
you were going to have to talk to people. No matter
Yes.
what, you would have interactions with people outside the family, so to speak, with strangers. And it kind of puts you in a situation, it forces you to a degree to, you got to talk, right? You got to do that.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right. And, like I was just speaking last night to
Okay.
a group of teenage girls,
Wow. Okay.
and the question about like, do you have any tips for shy speakers? And I mentioned like you learn to be shy somewhere. It's a habit right now. So I would work on changing the habit and don't try to do it all at once. Just do like the baby steps. What can you
Yeah.
do? And then add on the baby steps. There was some really great questions. But at the end, I told them, learn public speaking skills. Because Warren Buffett said that if you learn public speaking skills, it will increase your value by 50%.
Wow. I haven't heard that. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
But
Wow.
in the work that I've done with clients, so the research that I've done is that I have found that by learning public speaking skills, you'll actually increase your bottom line by 87%.
Wow.
Yeah.
Whoa. Awesome.
I work with, like corporate people, coaches, consultants, but even just like in corporations, what I call it is strategic networking. If you don't have time to network with other people and other departments, your future boss, like the best thing to do is to be outstanding at the meeting that you have to speak at.
Right.
And I actually have a client who recently he gave a presentation and he said the guy that he wants to be his boss, his next boss, he goes, he was in the room. And he came up to me afterwards and said, that was outstanding. And that's what you want. You're basically doing an interview without doing an interview yet. You
Right.
want to be the obvious choice. So if you're a coach, a consultant, I mean, there is literally 25,000 speaking opportunities every single day around the globe.
Wow.
And that blows people's minds. And here in the US, it is just about half. Like the meeting and conference industry is huge.
Right.
So we have nearly half of those meetings. But Trent, I'll tell you that I think speaking needs to be redefined and stages needs to be redefined. This is your stage, this podcast.
Right. This is
I am on your podcast. I'm on your stage.
Mm-hmm.
And from here, like that's not included in those like excuse me.
Like life.
This is not included in the meeting numbers because MPI is the one who decides, and it's about conference rooms being rented. At
people in person, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it's kind
Most
of
of those in-person things, but even some of the virtual things. But a podcast doesn't count as a speaking opportunity.
Yep.
And so that's why I say speaking needs to be redefined and stages needs to be redefined because I've got my own podcast also.
Right.
And that's my stage.
Do you know, you wouldn't believe that I had a deathly fear of public speaking. You wouldn't believe it. I'm super outgoing. I have no problem at a party or hanging out with friends or any of that or leading the team or whatever. But when all the eyeballs are on me,
interesting.
I melt, man. I mean, and this is great. This is great. Like this is my world. I'm good at this. But you know what? I had cancer 3 times, and the first one was hip cancer, and it left me handicapped. I have a leg shorter than the other, and I'm on a cane, and so I was on crutches for over 5 years, and people just how they are. They're like, "Oh man, what happened? You break your ankle, or what you do to your knee, and it's just how it is, and." I'm an honest dude. I'm straight up. I'm not going to say, oh yeah, I broke my ankle and just, I kind of would do my 1 minute spill real quick,
Yeah.
And people would say, wow, that's a story, man. And I just didn't think anything. I just thought, hell, I just told my parents I didn't want to die on them, and I was going to bury them instead of them
Yeah.
burying me because we had a couple people that their children died, and we saw the parents, and I'm like, I can't do this to my parents, and so I just didn't really think it was that big of a deal. I'm just trying to stay alive, right? And so I kind of was like, oh, I kind of have something here, and then I thought, I can't, there's no way I can go straight to the stage. There's no way. And so I started guesting on podcasts to talk one-on-one with people. And the way it made me feel okay was like, it's a recording. If it messes up, we can do it again, or we can edit it.
That's right. You can, everything's editable.
You do that to yourself, right? It's like, and then you get more used to it. And then I mean, I've probably been on 60 something podcasts as a guest, and I've done a year's worth, yeah.
So let me ask you a couple of questions, Trent.
Sure.
And have you ever listened? How many episodes of this show do you have?
Well, I've been doing it about a year.
Okay. So about 52, 55.
50-ish,
right have you ever, so do you feel like you've gotten better since your very first episode?
Oh my God. You have no idea. I mean, exactly. I mean, you know what? The first time you try anything, you suck.
I was terrible. Like my first episode on my podcast,
right?
I was like, oh my God, like I can't do this. And I was like, no, Laurie-Ann, your podcast recording muscle is very weak. Get back in there and go do it again.
Yep. Practice.
You did all these reps. You guested on other people's stages, and then you decided to build your own stage, and you've done, like over 50 reps of this. Like I've never listened to my first episode. I mean, I've got like a little over 400 episodes now, but I have even more recently had like a guest episode that finally aired. And it was an episode that I recorded even just 8 months ago. And then I listened to it and I'm just like, wow, just how far I've come in 8 months.
Yeah. And
about willing to do the reps. Not everybody wants to do, they want to be the Joe Rogan who's got over like 1,200 episodes. And they just want to be Joe who can speak for 3 hours with one person. And go listen to Joe's first episode.
Well, Joe did, he does UFC fight commentating. Before that, he was on Fear Factor. Before that, I think he was on something that nobody even remembers. And, that's the thing, right? We're in this immediate society now. Google, it's like 5 minutes. If I can't find it, I'm just move on. Right. And it's done that to us where we think everything's immediate, but you don't get good at stuff unless you practice.
I blame McDonald's for all of this. They're the first. They are the first drive-through.
Yeah.
That instant gratification. I didn't even have to get out of my car to go get my hamburger meal.
The instant gratification is when you finish the speech and the people come and talk to you afterwards and tell you how good you did. But you have to do the work and the outline and the prep and the slides and the practice and the everything and get all that to get the instant gratification right at the end, right? And that's just life, man. That's how things are. Mm-hmm. If you don't like the process, then you just check out, right? You just cut yourself out of society, because I don't think you get anywhere without hard work and consistency and dedication and everything. And it's worth it at that point to me, because when it comes easy, I don't think you appreciate it.
No, I don't think you do. We get so much more satisfaction by like, I worked at that. Look what I did. I'm in my email that went out to my list today. I was talking about how I did a deadlift of 125 pounds.
Good on you. Heck
And I
yeah.
was like, that doesn't just happen. Like, there's a
Yeah.
lot of other things. Like, I had to do leg extensions and leg curls and build up my strength, in order to get to that point. And I will tell you that I did do 12. So that tells me that next week I should be able to do 135 for maybe 8. That'll be my goal. But
I
that's
have
what
no doubt.
it's a little bit each time. And you know what? Like, I feel so good about myself. Like, look what I did.
Yeah.
I did that.
Yeah. That's awesome. I was a power lifter in college, so I know what you mean. And deadlift is my lift.
Is it? All right. What was your max?
650.
Nice.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine.
I weighed a buck 50. Yeah. I'm not a big dude. I'm like 5'7" 8" on one leg, and then the other leg I'm about 5'4".
So it depends on which leg you're standing on.
Yeah, I get to ride either. I can ride the adult rides or the kiddie rides at Disney, Disney World.
I love
and
that.
So, people just, they're like, "You're too old for that." I'm like, "But I fit underneath."
Yeah.
So, hey, I think that when you can laugh about something and make fun of yourself, that you're okay with it, that you kind of gotten over it. That's kind of my measure is like, am I good with this? And I think they'd be the same way with speaking. If you can mess up and make a joke and laugh about it and not just have a melty over it, I think you're winning on speaking, right?
You definitely are.
Yeah.
I love to tell people, especially people who fear, like, what if I forget what I'm going to say to the audience? And I tell them this story, how I'm the sort of speaker that has the wireless microphone and I walk around in the audience, and this is when I was talking about leadership, and somebody asked me a question. And I decided to answer the question right there and then because it served the audience. But then when I was done, like, my back was to the slides, so I couldn't have that visual cue. I completely forgot what I had been talking about before the question. So I put my hand on my hip. I just looked down at the next person and I just said, "What was I talking about?" The entire audience laughs.
Yeah.
And what's beautiful about that is that they think that that's probably part of the speech. Or they were thinking, she's just like me.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's it.
I forget also.
Yeah.
And just in that brief second of laughter, I remembered what I was talking about. And I picked it right back up.
Mm-hmm.
So
That's
I share
awesome.
that story because anybody who's out there who wants to tell their story or start speaking up, never be afraid of, what if I forget what I'm going to say? Because if anything, your audience is supporting you. They admire the fact that, oh my God, they are up there with all the eyes on them, sharing this information. They admire you.
Yep.
Go with that.
Yep. I've taken a couple of speaking courses with coaching and things like that. And one of the things that I remember was, if you need notes, use your notes, but don't act like you're hiding them and you're embarrassed. Just, you have them and they're there and no one's worried about it. As long as you're not reading to them the whole time, you're good. You're good, but don't try to act embarrassed about it. It's like, yeah, I got some notes. What?
It's so okay.
It's fine.
Have you ever seen Dave Ramsey speak? Yeah. At his own conference, Entree Leadership, he brings out his iPad. He puts it on the table that has his water, and it's a high top, and he just flicks through his notes.
Right.
You can have digital notes.
Yeah.
So many people got Apple Watches. You could just have the message just show up right on your watch.
Sure. and the thing that's always worked best for me is when I've done public speaking stuff, I will actually kind of write out the whole thing, and then I go back and I make an outline, and I just keyword, and then so then it's more natural, because if you're trying, you memorize it, it sounds a bit not natural and robotic and all that, right? But if you just have that one key word and you're like, oh yeah, it just comes out more naturally. Do you agree with that?
Well, I do tell people that there are two places that you probably should memorize. But
Okay.
when you do memorize your speech, as long as you're not like reading it word for word, because we write differently than we speak.
Okay.
So I recommend that people memorize the beginning and the end. So the beginning, because most people have butterflies, even myself, I still get butterflies. And if you memorize your beginning, by the time you're done your first 4 minutes, the butterflies will have subsided.
Right.
And then you can go on and just have bullet points. And then the reason why I recommend that you memorize the ending is, especially like for coaches, consultants, if it's a sales program, you want to make sure that you get your call to action in for the audience. And we don't want to be cut off or you speaking really fast because you know your time is up.
Yeah.
So know exactly how long your close is.
Yeah.
So that you can look up at a clock and see, you know, like your close is 4 minutes and you've got 5 minutes left to speak. It is okay to end a couple of minutes early than to go over a couple of minutes. Show your respect for the audience.
Gotcha. Cool. Yeah. Do you have any other tips for people what about people that aren't really trying to do this like repeatedly? They just have a one and done, you know, and they just had, you know, like they got asked to do this one thing and they know they're probably not going to do it ever again. Can you give us a few kind of pointers on how you would approach somebody like that?
Yes. So I'm going to give you a speaking tip that you probably never heard before.
Okay, cool.
People are always surprised when I tell them this.
Okay.
The night before, do not have a salty meal. So no pizza, no burgers and fries, no sushi with lots of soy sauce, because the next day you're going to be dehydrated.
Okay.
And if you're dehydrated, you're probably going to be drinking extra water. And you may not think that you're nervous, but the more that water that you're drinking, you may start to interpret that as, oh my God, I'm drinking a lot of water. I must be nervous. And then because of that, then the audience starts to feel it also. And they're just like, oh my God, he's drinking a lot of water. He must be nervous. So I always tell people, like, limit the salty foods 1 to 2 meals before you actually speak. So if you're speaking in the morning, be very careful of breakfast and also dinner. If you're speaking at lunchtime, you know, be mindful again the night before and also breakfast. So that's one. The second one would be, do not be afraid of pausing.
Good one. Yeah.
Power in pausing. And last night when I was speaking, the other woman who runs the group, she talked about a time when she paused, and she is a little still uncomfortable with speaking. And she said she paused and she swears, she goes, I think I blacked out. She's like, and then I came back, she goes, and I realized, oh my God, I'm still on stage. But people came up to her and said, when you paused, it was like you paused for me. So don't be afraid of pausing. Yeah. You know, there's a reason why music is so beautiful. It's not just the notes, it's the pauses in between the notes.
That's awesome.
Pausing is powerful.
Yeah.
It's a great way to ask the audience a question or ask. And when I say speaking, like, it doesn't necessarily have to be a big audience. It can just be a couple of people.
Right.
But when you ask them a question, you pause to give their brains space to answer the question.
Yeah.
So that's one. And by pausing, that should naturally slow down your pace as well.
Right. Yeah, that's well, I think that's just great advice. Yeah. I'm just thinking back to a couple of times that I've spoken, you know, live in front of big groups, and gosh, I practiced 40, 50 times, honestly. Now I used to have to practice and prepare, and I'd have an outline, but I've done this over 100 times now.
Yeah.
It's no big deal. I have my notes. I know about you and who you are and the research, and I've checked you out and done my homework. So I know who my guest is, and I do have like list of questions and things like that and stuff and points to cover, but I don't have this 50 time preparation.
No, you don't have time for that with a weekly show.
No, but if I am doing like a couple hundred people, I have to do that because then I know I feel confident that I put my time in, that I'm prepared, that I'm relaxed, and I know because I get nervous. I really do, and I still do. And I just haven't spoken live in front of big groups, but this, and so it would be like that, right? Yeah. It would be like that, the practice after a while.
Absolutely. All right, Trent, we're going to have to get you in front of some audiences.
Hey, I'm down. I mean, I just kind of take it as it comes. And
hey, resilient stories is very big right now. That is what companies are looking for. And you obviously have several resilient stories. And I would also say another trending topic is change. Okay. And I would imagine with each of your diagnoses, you had to radically change something. Like change is not always positive.
No.
Even right. In your case, it was like a negative change. And it's like you're going down the road and all of a sudden, oh my God, I have to take a right-hand turn here. But I wanted to go this way. This is what I was planning on doing, but you are forced, and right now with technology changing as rapidly as it is, like with AI, companies are trying to stay ahead of this. And so I think change and resilience are two very popular topics right now for company meetings and also industry meetings.
Cool. Great advice about speaking and the tips and everything. If there's anybody listening that wants to try to get a gig, so to speak, do you recommend any websites to look at or anything? I don't know if this is part of your coaching package that's private, so I'm not trying to steal any info for free kind of thing. You know what I'm saying?
Actually, if you want to get started speaking, but you don't know where to look, I do have it's called the Directory of Places to Speak, and it's got like over 55 different organizations that routinely look for speakers.
Cool.
You can get that at speakandstandout.com/directory. And also on my podcast. I'm so sorry. I could look it up, the exact episode number, but I have my podcast is called Be in Demand, and it's all about public speaking. I have lots of episodes on how to get started, how to use your warm market first before you do cold outreaches. I've even got episodes on when somebody does say yes, now what do you do? Because you don't want
your pants.
But there are certain questions that I would advise you to ask so that you sound like this is not your first time.
Rock and roll.
And so my goal for my clients and anybody who's learning from me is that you always look like a pro. Right. So I've got over 400 episodes. There are some live coaching episodes and a lot of solo episodes with me teaching my audience about speaking, whether you're in corporate or you're a coach, consultant looking to market your business.
Awesome. And the speakandstand.com directories, that's your website, speakandstand.com, right?
Yes. My website
that's your website. And tell us again the name of the podcast, your podcast. What is it?
Name of my podcast. Actually, Trent, I have two podcasts.
Okay, yeah, sure.
Name of my podcast is called Be in Demand.
Okay.
That's my main one. But I also have public speaking monetization tips. And it walks you from step 1 all the way through to step 18 is what I'll call it. There's a total of 18 episodes. I call it a petite podcast, but it's very informative on the speaking world and how to get started and use it as your best form of marketing.
Awesome. Awesome. What was public speaking?
Public speaking monetization tips.
Monetization. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Okay,
And when you
cool.
see these two podcasts side by side, you're going to be like, they're cousins.
Right. Cool. And are people watch them normally what on YouTube? Is it YouTube the main platform or
The
like
podcast is on Apple and Spotify and also on YouTube.
cool, cool. Um is there anything else, any tips, anything that you would like to share as we kind of wrap up? I'll ask you in a minute. You can give us all your where to find me and all that in a minute. But do you have any departing words?
I think I just want to encourage people not to shy away from speaking. Speaking literally is the fastest way to get promoted. It's the fastest way to grow your business, to market your business, to grow your email list. Whether you decide to start a podcast as your stage, or you're like, I'm going to like go over on IG and like talk into the stories every single day. Just do something, because right now you're going to be terrible. I was like I had 25 years of public speaking experience, and then I tried to start a podcast and I was like, this is terrible. I did the reps, and this the same thing, even like an IG story. It's look into the camera, look at that green dot, speak to one person, just practice talking into a camera, and it will translate into so many other areas of your life that a year from now, even 6 months from now, you'll look back and you'll be like, I am so glad that I decided to do that thing that Laurie-Ann said.
Right. Right. I fully agree with you. And I think that people like real people. They like to know that you're just as normal and as human as they are. And you know what? If they're critical or they're making fun of you or whatever, that's not your crowd.
Right. Not your people.
That's the filter out for me. It's like we aren't on the same wavelength, and you just get drop kicked right out the door, and that was that. Thanks. Thank you.
Yep.
Made it easy for me. That's kind of the way I try to look at that,
Yeah, it's one less Christmas card to send out.
Exactly. So, tell us how people can find you, your websites. I've got your podcast and your website, but tell us about your website or your coaching packages, or do you have a book or
I do actually have a couple of books called Rethink Leadership and Rethink Your Leadership. Both of those can be found on Amazon. But I would say like the best place to either follow me on your favorite social media is really just to go to speakandstandout.com, and you can find me on LinkedIn or Instagram, like your favorite social, to learn from me. Cool. And yes, I do work with people one-on-one. Okay. And you could, like on my website, you can learn a little bit more about me, and you can book a speaker success call, and we'll have a conversation about the speaking goals that you have, whether it's for your career or it's for your business. Gotcha. And they vary in length from, sometimes I just need to do like a speaker spotlight, which is a 1-hour call. And other times I have more lengthy time with people depending on what the project is.
Do you have like a lot of people call it a discovery call, where you talk to them for, 15 or 20 minutes to kind of figure out, okay, can we work together? Can I get you to, kind of thing. And that's a kind of is that a free consultation?
Yes.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. If somebody that's listening to this right now would like to book something like that, it's speakandstandout.com/speaker-success.
Okay, cool. Awesome. Yeah, that's what I've learned. It's just better to like have a few minutes like that and kind of, because I don't want to take anybody's money that I can't help. And right. and you know what? I don't mind, because if I can't and I know someone that can, then I recommend them. And that's just good karma, man. That's how I roll, because it comes back. I love
that. Yeah, so, it's so true. It's so true.
Yeah. Well, I'll give you the last word, and then I'll take us out. Anything else on your end?
I'm good. Trent, this was so much fun. I really
Cool.
enjoyed our conversation. And thank you, audience, for being here with us.
Yes,
I hope
thank you
you
so
enjoyed.
much.
And I am also the sort of person that if you want to send me a DM on LinkedIn or Instagram, I'm always down for that. I love knowing my audience
Cool.
and getting to know them. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time and your passion and charisma. I truly believe that you enjoy and love what you do. And I'm sure you're a remarkable coach because it comes through just you talking about what you do. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, we're out of here, guys. God bless. Godspeed to you this week. And never forget, grit, don't quit. We are out. You want to stay for a second? Let me just get the stream here.